Hello and welcome to Ways to Change the World. I'm Krishnan, and this is the podcast in which we talk to extraordinary people about the big ideas in their lives and the events that have helped shape them. My guest this week is an incredibly successful songwriter who works with everyone from the Saturdays to Dua Lipa to Stormzy. But she's also an artist in her own right, and her latest single, Sad Party, is out at the moment. But you might know her as one of the stars of Highlife, the new Channel 4 docu-soap that is chronicling the lives of a group of West Africans in Britain. KAMILLE got married in this series and has revealed an awful lot about her family and her relationship. So welcome to the podcast, KAMILLE. Let's begin with Highlife, because you are the star of this new docu-soap on Channel 4, or one of the stars of it. You're revealing yourself on this show in a way that I guess you're not really used to. It's very intimate in all sorts of ways, and it covers your wedding. And I just wonder how that feels, coming, so foreground.
It feels so scary. I am so not used to this level of openness, and it took a lot of kind of encouragement from my family, if I'm honest. I remember when I was asked to do the show and I was like, should I do it? Should I not? I've never opened up like this. They're going to see inside my house. They're going to see my wedding. And everyone around me was like, do you know what, KAMILLE, you've been doing this for a while, and maybe it's time for everyone to see this side of you. You haven't ever shown yourself on this level before. And actually, it probably be quite aspirational for other people to see what you've achieved and how you've achieved it, and might give someone some inspiration. So for that reason, I thought I'd do it. And it was for no other reason other than to encourage others.
Now, as we speak, the first episode is going out tonight. So you don't really know what the reaction is going to be.
Everyone could actually hate it. I think the cast, we're all in a WhatsApp group and we're all messaging each other like, oh my God, please don't write bad tweets about us. But honestly, I think the motives are so good for us all doing this show. And if there is any bad vibes about it, I think we'll all just be able to brush it off our shoulders, because we know we did the show for the right reason. So it comes with the territory, really, and I think it's something I'm prepared for.
Tell me about the motives for the show then, because it's part of the Black to Front initiative by Channel 4, which is about putting black talent on screen, in a big way, and it's hopefully much more than one day. And your show, the show you're in, Highlife, is certainly more than one day. It's a series, and it's designed to kickstart a lot of talent searching and putting people on big shows. So tell me a little bit about sort of what the motives behind the show are, because this is also about West Africans mostly, which you're not.
I know. I think that's another thing. So let's talk about that first. I'm so proud of my Jamaican and Cuban heritage. I'm a proud Caribbean girl, and being the only Caribbean girl as part of this cast of such strong Nigerian characters, I think was an interesting journey even for me. And I think it's something that I wanted to do to represent for my culture. I'm not used to seeing Jamaicans in really prominent positions on UK television. And that's another reason why I wanted to do it. But I think in general, I just think this show stands to, represent Black people as a whole. And I think that was the most important message for me. Irrespective of where you come from, as a Black person, it's very rare that you see examples that you can look up to. And there's so much more of them now, but growing up, I didn't have many. And especially not in the music industry. As a Black woman, I had rarely any to look up to and to understand and to kind of aspire to. And so I think this Black to Front initiative is incredible. As much as there's so much going on today, I do think it's sparking conversation. I do think it's sparking interest and discovery. And I think the success of it will help there to be more opportunities and initiatives like this in the future as well. So fingers crossed for more, but I think it's an amazing start.
But also sort of putting yourself out there is something you are now doing in career terms as well. So it kind of, I suppose it all fits together, doesn't it?
I honestly think it's come though from me probably annoying everyone in the industry with my craziness, because I've worked with so many artists now that I think they're all like, KAMILLE, just leave us alone at this point. And I think it's just my opportunity to just do what I do. I do think COVID had a big part to play in that as well. I had so much time to myself to sit and think about what do I actually want to do. And it definitely drove my kind of love for my own artistry. But yeah, I think it's just that time. I think it's natural for everyone to want to grow in their lives. And this is what I'm realizing. Growth is very scary and very intimidating at times, but it's the right thing to do for you always. It's so important to grow as a person. And you're not meant to sit in one box for the rest of your life. You're meant to change and evolve. So yeah, I guess I'm on that first part of my journey.
Let's work out where the journey began. You're Jamaican Cuban, aren't you? Tell me about your parents.
My parents are incredible. You'll see them on Highlife as well. They're featured on the show. But my mum is effervescent, vibrant, very loud, very outspoken, a typical kind of fiery Jamaican woman, brought up in this country. And she went on to earn an MBE. She was incredible with her job and working for the Chamber of Commerce. And she was someone who I looked up to and thought, I need to replicate this success. And similarly, my dad, a property developer, strong Jamaican man, very much bred within the culture of like Brixton and South London. And growing up in Streatham my whole life, I was just so used to the vibrancy of Black people and our culture, especially Caribbean culture. And my parents were right in the thick of it, and they were incredible.
Where did you live as a child? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Streatham. I literally lived opposite Streatham Common, Streatham Massive in the house. And yeah, it was just an amazing place to live. I remember that Naomi Campbell was growing up nearby and Richard Blackwood. And we had a few little people that, you know, of note that we could lean on for props.
And when did your parents come to Britain?
My parents were living in Britain. My mum came to Britain when she was like 9. And my dad came to Britain from when he was about 2 years old. So this was back in, I think, the early 60s.
So just sort of towards the end of the Windrush period.
Exactly that period, yeah.
Tell me about why they came and where did they come from? Did they come from the sort of the traditional, relatively poor Jamaican background that a lot of the Windrush generation did, or were they better off than that?
I definitely think that both my parents were from more of the poorer background, but they were extremely hardworking. I've never known two hardworking people in my life. And my dad in particular was someone who was like starting businesses when he was like 12 and 13 and always trying to figure out ways of like, you know, making money and bettering his situation. And the same with my mum. And I think they changed their situations very quickly on being in this country to, you know, a happy middle class scenario for them. And onward from there. And I think having seen that story from, you know, a very, very simple and kind of, I'd say, you know, lower class situation to where they are now, and having done that all on their own, I think was for me, the biggest life lesson to show me that you can make anything change on your own and you can change your whole life just through hard work.
And what did that mean for how you were being brought up and, you know, what you were being told as a kid?
It was all about education for me. So the first thing they did was send us to private school. I went to an all-girls school called Old Palace in Croydon, where we had brown uniform, and we used to study in rooms that were once Henry VIII's bedroom, which was a lot of fun, as you can imagine. I think that was the prominent thing that they wanted to teach us, that they necessarily might not have had the best education, but they wanted to give that to me and my sister.
And what were you going to be?
I wanted to be so many things. I knew I would be something in entertainment just because I'm a very, very extra, larger than life kind of person. But obviously the education route meant that I had to study something, inverted commas, serious. So I studied physics, I studied maths, and decided that I wanted to go into economics because I thought that was the quickest way to make money. That's what I did. I started being, you know, a stockbroker, junior stockbroker, and I just hated it. I didn't love it. It wasn't what I thought it would be. I felt so empty. I felt like Neo in the Matrix, looking at screens and seeing all these numbers, and I basically took the other pill, and here I am.
So how did you get that first job then?
So that job came from working in banks from when I was about 16 to 17, because my parents kind of said to me, you know, you need to have a weekend job and you need to be working to support yourself, pay something towards the house, you know.
Really, even at that age?
Yeah, they just felt like it's important for my independence. It was more for me, so that I had my own understanding of the value of money. I could go out with my friends and feel independent. And I think it probably did that for me, probably to the extreme, because from a young age, I was ready to move out. I wanted to do my own thing. I felt so empowered by working for myself at such a young age. And yeah, I just kind of worked my way up from being a cashier at a lot of banks to personal banking. I did mortgage assessments. I was just working my way up the system. And then whilst I was at sixth form, a lot of companies would come in and kind of recruit us and kind of bring us onto apprenticeships and stuff. And Barclays Capital was one of those, and Santander, and all these companies came in to see who they wanted to fish from my sixth form, and I was one of them. And that's kind of how it started.
And what about university and, expectations there?
I feel like I spent a lot of my university time not listening. I just wasn't mentally there, and I definitely had a lot of expectations on me to do well. I was lucky that I went to a school where education was drummed into us so hard that it came naturally to kind of at least be on like a 60% presence in class and get away with it. But for me, I wasn't there. I got my degree and I couldn't wait to leave. And a lot of people experience that, I think, at uni. I think for me, it was about discovering what I really wanted to do, and that was music.
You'd gone to Sylvia Young, hadn't you, as a kid? The stage school. Did you do was it the Saturday classes you did?
It was. I used to go up to Marylebone Station with my dad on weekends, and I'd be so excited. And I think that's where I caught a lot of the bug that I had for music. Seeing everyone, seeing these people who were going there full time, by the way, and they were getting all the adverts, all the theatre slots, and being in shows on TV, EastEnders, all the ones you can think of. And I was just like, I want that so much. I want to be famous. I want to be in this industry.
So did you learn music?
I basically studied theatre. I studied a bit of music and a lot of choreography. The classes I remember I wanted to do, a lot of them were only available to like if you were full time. So I kind of had to get there and do what I could do on a Saturday. But I was just so lucky to be there. I didn't care what I would have studied there. I was just at Sylvia Young, like, it's a dream, right? So that really, really taught me a lot about the industry and how cutthroat it was and how competitive.
You say you didn't really have, there weren't many role models for you at that time. How did you feel about your chances of success?
Oh my gosh, slim to none. Slim to none. I walked out of my job wanting to be an artist. That's what I wanted to do. And there was no way in hell I would have been taken seriously as a Black woman trying to be a pop star and walking out of my job to do it. Like, unheard of. And I think that's why I kind of slid into the songwriting, because I was so desperate to be in the industry and wanted any way to get in and learn about it, even when people weren't taking me seriously as a singer.
I mean, how did you feel race came into it? When you say as a Black woman, people wouldn't take you seriously.
I think it's much better now, but back when I started, you wouldn't really hear many Black women like on the radio, on top 20 songs. There just weren't many there. And it wasn't something that made me sad. It just was something that made me want to be there. And as I say, like, that's how my parents were in life. And that's kind of what I adopted from them. I just wanted to show other people that I could be there and I could make hit songs. And it's funny that I ended up making a lot of hits for other people, but still hadn't made that hit for myself. And that's why I think I've still got this burning desire to do it and prove to everyone that Black women can really, really be in these positions in this country. I'm talking about the songs that you hear every single day on the radio, the songs that are drummed into your ears and synced all over TV and synced all over movies, and you can't escape them. I think that's what I would consider to be a top 20 song. And having understood this the hard way through songwriting and understanding the science behind these songs, I started to learn that a lot of the Black women I saw or I knew of in the past hadn't actually had these kind of songs. Maybe a few. I remember Jamelia had Superstar and Desiree had a couple and Gabrielle had a couple, but it wasn't as, I'd say, consistently flowing out as a lot of their white female counterparts. And that's what I identified. I was like, oh, okay, so we need to keep putting out these top 20 songs then to get somewhere. And I think that's something that I learned through writing, was that for a song to really, really connect with the nation, it does need to probably chart top 20.
I mean, we see it in X Factor, that it's not just about how you can sing, it's about who you are and how you're going to connect with people. And that the white people who run the music industry on the whole probably think that, Black women aren't going to connect in the same way. And it's also about what they regard as attractive or pretty or beautiful.
I find that so sad. And I think that that part of that is real, yeah. And it's something that I think a lot of Black women face every day and feel, you know, insecure. We don't feel as beautiful, perhaps. But I was lucky that I had parents who every day told me I was beautiful. And I think coming into this industry, that's exactly the kind of resilience I needed, because I wasn't going to let anyone tell me I couldn't do it because I was a Black woman. Like, I just wasn't going to hear it. And I think that mentality, you know, not everyone is lucky enough to have that. And sadly, I do think it does stop a lot of Black women from thinking that they can do it and be a pop star or be on front facing, you know, things in this industry. I think it's changed a lot now, though. I definitely think now Black music is at the forefront of this country, and that is an incredible thing to see and have been a part of. You know, I remember when I was part of writing Ain't It Different with Stormzy and AJ Tracy and Heady One last year, went to #2, and I was on the chorus of that song. And I felt so proud that, you know, as a Black woman, I'd started to make waves. So it is changing, but I think it could change a lot quicker.
What would you do to change it?
I think I would start to elevate Black women in the same positions, for example, on playlists. So you see a lot of Black males on playlists, but not as many Black women. And I definitely think, for example, live shows like Wireless this year had hardly any women, any Black women on it, and it was mainly all male. So I think it's actually more of a gender thing that I'm noticing now, more than anything, because I can't say Black artists aren't supported, they totally are, but it's just not a lot of Black women being supported.
So how did you become a songwriter? Because from what you're saying is you didn't study music, you didn't have music lessons, yet you became a songwriter.
I was lucky enough to have piano lessons at school that my mum forced me to do, annoyingly, but it ended up helping me a lot because I was...
Annoyingly, you say? Did you not enjoy it?
I hated piano at school. At school, the last thing you want to do is go into a little room and knock around on a piano. You want to be out playing with your friends, don't you? And I was forced to do that at most lunchtimes. But now I'm so grateful I had that because it gave me the sensibility of music. I learned how to play by ear, essentially. So going into studios, I could knock around on a piano. That's a very impressive thing to a recording producer or anyone in that kind of room.
But how did you start knocking around in studios? I mean, when you decided that you didn't want to be a stockbroker or a banker and you didn't want to do a boring job as you saw it, you wanted to go and work in the music industry, how did you begin?
I was really lucky that my dad had a couple of friends in the music industry. And before I gave up my job, I remember moaning to him and saying, Dad, I just really want to do music. And he said, okay, well, why don't you go and hang out with my friend? And he's got a studio and you can see if you like it before you completely quit your whole career you've worked so hard for. And I would just go to this studio and just hang around. I literally was hanging around. I would sit on the side and look and watch and listen. And I remember one day I said, I want to try and help you write a song because I was stuck on a chorus, this particular producer. And that's kind of how I fell into it. He liked what I did. And I don't really even know what I was doing. I just thought I just wanted to make them proud, really, and let me stay there. And I kept going there every weekend. And I remember I stopped going to work some days because I wanted to be in the studio. Everyone knows with the music industry, opportunities come up so randomly and you have to just make sacrifices. So I would just leave work and go. And one of the first songs that I finished with this producer, it was given to the Saturdays and it was What About Us featuring Sean Paul. And that song went to #1. And I was over the moon. I couldn't believe what happened. I didn't know what I'd even done. And I remember my parents thinking, okay, well, you've got a #1 song that you've written. You can try this a bit more and see how you get on. So I was really lucky, Krishnan. I don't feel like that happens to everyone. And I hate telling this story because...
Why?
Because most people really struggle to get in the industry and have that level of success. And #1 on your first go is unheard of and not a story I like to tell because it's really unattainable. I think I was just honestly so lucky.
It's a mixture, isn't it, of sort of, you know, you had the access because of your dad's friend, but then obviously you had the talent and you grasped the opportunity.
Yeah, you do obviously have to be somewhat talented to write songs. I wouldn't say that I just fell into it, easily, but there was a lot of luck involved and a lot of right place at the right time, I think. But I definitely noticed after that #1, I still had to work my ass off. Like I was in studios non-stop trying to prove to everyone I wasn't a one-hit wonder in the writing industry.
While you were doing this, were you secretly dreaming of being an artist yourself?
The whole time. I remember working with Fleur East on the X Factor, right? And this was in, the heyday of X Factor. And I remember seeing her perform at Wembley Arena. We've been working together on this show for months, as you know, with X Factor. And we got to this final and she was a star. And I was standing on the side with the film crew watching her, and I had to run into a bathroom and cry because I was like, this is what I want to do so bad. Like, I just want to be that. And imagine seeing a woman of colour on that stage. I thought that was something that could never happen. And it happened for her on such a large scale. And I was so jealous and so desperate for that to be me. And I think that's such a real emotion to have in this industry, is jealousy. And I'm so cool with admitting that. I'm jealous of everyone. Because I just want what they have. But it was really hard. At least I got to be part of her process. We ended up writing sax together, which was probably the most annoying song for everyone. All Christmas that year. And, I think it was great for me to see that whole thing play out, but it only made me want to be an artist even more.
A lot of people would say you've got the perfect setup as the songwriter. You've got the creative buzz and satisfaction. You make quite a lot of money as the songwriter, but you don't have any of the hassle of the fame.
I'm probably crazy for trying to do this so bad, aren't I? I don't know what I'm actually doing, to be honest with you. I remember being in the studio with Cheryl Cole, and she would tweet something, and there was this person who honestly, legitimately would tweet "fat bitch" every single time that she would just say anything. Like seconds later, it was like I don't know how this person was even doing it. And I remember seeing that right at the beginning of this, coming into this industry, how horrible people can be. And it just made me have a tough skin, but it kind of normalized it for me, I think, in a way where I'm so used to seeing that with artists I work with and how they deal with it, that even for me now, I'm just like, oh, whatever. It just doesn't matter. It just does not matter.
When you work with people, how does it work?
So typically, we get in a room, everyone says hello, and then we'll start the session. And it will mean a producer or myself getting on a piano or on a synth, which is usually synced up to Logic, or Pro Tools, which are music making software programs. And usually like a little synth line will come up. Like on Don't Call Me Up, let's use that. Steve Mack started playing that kind of melody line on the computer. And I just went on the mic and started singing some melodies, like, no, 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 just vibing. Sometimes I sing things and they have words in, sometimes they're absolute gibberish, and you'll just hear a weird thing in there and you'll be like, oh, that's really cool. But it's a very magical moment. And when people ask me, how did you write the song? I never remember anything. It's the weirdest moment you can ever experience. But it's a magical thing that happens when everyone in the room can hear something that is so astounding and that feels so good. And then when you found that thing, you just go from there. Usually it's part of a chorus or part of a hook or part of an intro. Like I remember on Solo with Clean Bandit, it was the whoop, 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 quack, 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 da, da, da. Like we were just messing around with silly noises. And I remember thinking we should write a song about masturbation. Like we should write about that. Why has no one written about that loneliness you feel when you just want someone there? And we were like, yeah, let's do it. And that fun moment when a lyric comes together, it's really fun. You always try and spin it in a way that no one quite knows what you're talking about. Did that with Black Magic for Little Mix, where it's a very saucy song and no one knows. And that's part of the fun of being the songwriter, is lots of hidden messages and songs and fun, magical things that you can't quite explain.
Okay, explain Black Magic.
I knew you were going to ask me this. Do you know what? It's a secret with me and the girls. You listen to that song now, I've told you that it's a bit naughty and you'll hear everything, and that's all I'm going to say.
When you're writing with an artist, are you writing for them or are you just writing a good song?
For me, usually we're definitely writing a song for this artist. Like if I'm in the room with Stormzy, we're trying to get a hook for Stormzy in this moment. Or if you're in the room with Rihanna, you're trying to get a song for Rihanna. So I feel like I'm a bit of a shapeshifter where I can kind of, because I stan these artists so much, I get in the zone of what would I want to hear if I heard their next single. And in 6 hours, what can I make?
I mean, you were saying earlier, that you hadn't quite had the big record for yourself that you want. Do you think you might have to stop working with other people before that happens?
I would be scared to, because I write so many songs, Krishnan, that I feel like if I wasn't writing for other people, I'd probably explode with ideas and become a really angry person. It's like an outlet for me to write with people. I do feel like at the moment, though, I'm balancing it quite well. Usually Zoom in sessions with people. A lot of stuff we've written, like all the Anne-Marie music we just wrote for her last album, Therapy, a lot of that was done over Zoom and just texting each other ideas.
And how much do you think things have changed now in terms of the industry from the time when you talk about, I guess, quite painful memories of how you felt at the time when you were starting out? We didn't describe it as racism or prejudice, but I guess that's what it was. And I just wonder whether you feel that now.
I think it will always be there. I really do. I think sometimes you forget it's there as a Black person, especially when you are someone who's determined and you're achieving things. But then sadly, you're reminded about it. Like even the other day, I remember Tommy and I were stopped by the police in a not so much of a nice way.
What happened?
We were driving, we had all the things we needed. Obviously our car's insured, like everything was fine. They just stopped us for no reason and were being really rude to us. And in moments like that, you remember, oh my gosh, yeah, maybe it's because I'm Black. Like maybe that's why. Like 2 Black people in a nice car who've done absolutely nothing wrong. Is this why they're stopping us? Like you do think to yourself, like, is this why? And you feel so nervous in moments like that as a Black person. So it is still there, but I definitely think there are so many people who are not racist and don't have these horrible thoughts about other races, that is enough to help me move forward with my life in a positive way.
There are some people who see it very much as part of their role to take these things on, to talk about them, to confront it. And there are others who just think, well, by being successful, I am confronting it. Where are you on that line?
I'm not really one to just talk about stuff without action. That's one thing that really frustrates me. I think a lot of people can speak about activism and speak about changing things and not do it. So for me, I'm all about doing things. This is one of the big reasons why I did the show. Another thing, for example, She Is the Music, which is an amazing incentive to help female producers come to the forefront. I'm doing that and I'm encouraging women to come and produce.
What is that?
So She Is the Music was set up by myself and Fred Gibson, who's an incredible producer. And we basically found this incredible set of female producers who are record producers. And it's for only women. And we meet up with them monthly. We basically coach them, mentor them. And we help pitch their music to massive artists, and it's working already.
What's your bigger goal in life right now?
Do you know what? I actually honestly feel like I am too ambitious sometimes because I see myself doing so much. I have my own record label now, which is really exciting. I want to be able to sign incredible artists that I know can make a change and make an impact. But I just see myself being someone who's made a change in the world. Like I want people to think of me and go, oh wow, KAMILLE, like she really inspired my daughter, or she really inspired my son to do this. Or I think that makes me happy and that makes me feel successful.
Do you think there's a way to stop young Black girls feeling the same insecurities that you felt?
I feel like, honestly, it comes from within. And I know it sounds so cheesy, but the only time you start to feel more positive about life and who you are is when you start believing that from yourself. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm not insecure. I'm probably one of the most insecure people you'll ever meet. And every day I have to have conversations with myself about how I look and how I feel, what I'm wearing, what my weight is. These are things I think most women and most men experience, might not talk about, but we're all thinking it. You're all feeling a bit crap about yourself on some days. And I think admitting that to everyone and being open is what I can possibly do to help them feel like they're not alone. But at the end of the day, it's going to come from everyone feeling that way about themselves and feeling more positive. So it's really sad and hard. And I think social media doesn't help because the minute I go online, I'm comparing myself to some beautiful woman who has photoshopped her bum and photoshopped her waist and made herself look so gorgeous, and you just feel rubbish. So it's a lot of conversations with yourself, and I think talking to yourself in a calm way is a really, really helpful thing to do.
Isn't Photoshop better than plastic surgery, or easier and less painful?
That is a really, really good point. Yes, I would much prefer someone to Photoshop themselves than go under the knife. However, I do think there's an equal amount of mental damage that can be caused by almost always Photoshopping yourself. And even me, like sometimes I'm on Instagram and I try not to use the filters when I'm doing a story because I'm trying to go, actually, no, Cam. You actually look all right. Like, you don't need to do this filter right now to make yourself look perfect. Like, what's wrong with who I am? Why am I not satisfactory to myself? And why am I so hard on myself? And I realized it's me doing it to me because no one else cares. No one else is going to look at my story and go, you haven't got a filter on, so you look rubbish today. They're going to think, oh, there's Camille. What's she got to say? They're not going to care about how I look. It's only me that's doing that. I want girls to feel more confident about themselves. I really do. And one way I've tried to do that through my music is writing songs that empower them. Like, shout out to my ex. I cannot tell you how many people came up to us like, thank you for writing that song. You helped me move on from this trash guy I couldn't get rid of. And now I'm happy with a new man, or now I'm happy living my single life. And I think that's the least I can do with my job for women, is empower them.
And when you write a song like that, is that from your own experience, or are you taking an experience and writing about it?
That's from every woman's experience of some guy who has treated you like absolute poo, and you now have a moment to just have retribution. And I think that is what that song is about. And I love writing songs like that. I love helping artists find their confidence again. That makes me so happy.
If you could wave a magic wand then and change the world in any way you like, how would you change it?
I think if I could wave a magic wand, I would stop people from being able to see race. That's what I would do. I would allow no one to see what colour anyone was. So we kind of be blind in a way where you can just see a figure. You can't see the colour of them. You can't see or assume where they're from. I would love to do that because I think for me, you know, when you see toddlers, I have a nephew who's 1, and when he sees other kids, he doesn't see their race and they don't see his. They just want to play together. And bringing up my nephew recently has just reminded me, oh my gosh, wow, these things are really taught. Like, these horrible feelings that people have about different races are taught. They are. They're not something that you just grow up deciding you want to be a racist person, or you grow up deciding you feel this way about a culture or about a type of person. And I think that's what I would love to do. I'd love to just take that away and see where we're at, because I think the world would be an incredible place if we didn't know what race anyone was.
Camille, thank you very much indeed. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for sharing your ways to change the world. Our producers are Rachel Evans and Faye White. You can watch all of these interviews on the Channel 4 News YouTube channel. Until next time, bye-bye.